Let's go. My favorite type of videos, man. I like watching informative New Zealand videos, man. Things that break these things down. Cause I always try to recite this exactly right here, but I'm not. I don't know it like that. I want to know everything. I want to cross these T's and dot these I's when it comes to this document right here, man. The Treaty of Waitangi. Let's get it. Like that video. 2AM hats in the description. Let's get it. Let's go. Come on. I'm ready.
Since 1840, one document's been at the centre of countless protests in New Zealand. Some odd.
It's for raping our country, selling away our rights.
What the fuck? What? Well, hold on. Wait. What was that? Oh, what did she just Bro, did she just put a Johnson on this man's lips? Did she just throw a plastic Johnson on your president's lips? Prime Minister. New Zealand is vicious. But these New Zealand aunties is no joke, bro. What?
Centre of countless protests in New Zealand. Some
let me see. Like, he's just smiling, enjoying his time. He don't even know what's about to happen. Yeah, that is a joke. Shit. I never seen that. How have I never seen that? She just threw it. Come on, man.
It's for raping our country, selling away our rights and our freedom.
Some pretty serious.
Bro, hold on. We can't just skip past the how have I never seen that? How is that not viral? How is that not the most viewed video ever? If that happened in the States, that would be World War V. Oh.
It's the Treaty of Waitangi, and it binds tangata whenua, the people of the land, with tangata tiriti, the people of the treaty. But for a long time, tangata whenua, people of Māori tiriti. The Treaty of Waitangi, and it binds tangata whenua, the people of the land, with tangata tiriti, the people of the treaty. But for a long time, tangata whenua, people of Māori descent, felt the treaty wasn't working for them.
Māoris are the victims!
What's going on right here? Is this like a... When I look at this right here, this reminds me of... It's not as vicious. It reminds me of the old days when black people used to get sprayed with the water hoses. I'm feeling like that's what's going on here. Obviously, it don't look as harmful and vicious, but it has that tension in the air. Like, that's the vibe of what's going on, though.
Felt the treaty wasn't working for them.
Māoris are the victims! Cut it out! Stop taking off our people!
And recently, so have tangata tiriti.
Does it mean that we are divided into two peoples apart, or does it mean that we are citizens of New Zealand with the same rights and duties?
And now, a political party in government wants a referendum on its...
Bro, I ain't gonna lie, y'all Prime Minister head is just crazy, bro. He look like one of them evil villains off of The Incredibles, like villains, bro.
Same rights and duties.
And now, a political party...
Look at that, that's a pinhead, bro. And I got a big head myself, but damn, that is crazy.
Party in government wants a referendum on its principles. And like many things to do with the treaty, it's a proposal that stirred up plenty of controversy. The Treaty of Waitangi has stood as New Zealand's founding document for nearly 200 years, and it's named for where it was signed, Waitangi. It's an agreement between Māori and the British Crown, and in 1840 it set the rules for Britain's colonisation of a country literally half a world away. But the process of writing those rules was somewhat rushed. It was written by Lieutenant Governor William Hobson without the help of the British government or its lawyers. And the treaty itself was written, debated, revised and translated in the span of just 3 days. On the 6th of February 1840, which we now remember as Waitangi Day, around 40 Māori chiefs signed it. By September, that number was around 540, but it ultimately didn't matter.
Damn, bro, they should have never signed that treaty at all, man. This is just an example. Do not sign no treaties. Contracts and treaties tend to have a lot of bad outcomes, and period. Don't sign no treaties. I wish they never signed that. I wish my people never gave us away on them ships, because like apparently, you know, Africans gave other Africans away. Should have just stood 10 toes like, no, we're not signing nothing, we're not doing nothing with you. The Native Americans, then they do the same thing. Like, that's what Thanksgiving is. I don't know, bro.
Now remember as Waitangi Day, around 40 Māori chiefs signed it. By September, that number was around 540, but it ultimately didn't matter. England's Colonial Office would declare the treaty applied to all Māori tribes, regardless of whether their chief had signed it or not, and many hadn't. There was also the issue of translation. You see, there are two copies of the treaty, one in English and one in Te Reo Māori, the language spoken by Indigenous Māori, and they don't exactly say the same thing. For instance, one article of the English treaty says Māori cede sovereignty of New Zealand to Britain, but the Māori version translated sovereignty to Kāwanatanga.
Finesse, but this is what I'm saying though. How are they? So the Māori signed the English version? That's where they went wrong, but they signed the English version, man. But even then, it's like, you still could like, no, we didn't know that. We didn't know what that was saying. So we don't care. We don't care what we sign. We will burn this paper. We are not doing this or whatever. They probably had guns back then and the Māori didn't have guns, man. They probably was tired of going to war. I don't know, bro. The British got some bad history, bro. They like evil, bro. The British is like a lot of the peoples across the world's enemy for real, man. What's wrong with the Europeans, bro? What's going on with y'all, man?
Which actually means a word closer to governance. Another article is similarly unclear about land ownership, and there were only 3 articles. It's also important to note that of the 5 word closer to governance, sovereignty to Kāwanatanga, which actually means a word closer to governance. Another article is similarly unclear about land ownership, and there were only 3 articles. It's also important to note that of the 540 who signed the Māori version, only 39 signed the English version. There was also a pretty big cultural difference. The British dealt in contracts and signed documents, but Māori didn't have a written language.
Bro, so pretty much the English was going to do whatever they wanted to do anyway. They don't even care. They just wanted to make it look good. Make it look good on the surface. Like how these girls got the makeup, they look good on the surface, but when you take the makeup off, it's a whole different story. That's how this was, bro, pretty much. Crazy.
For much of their history. They valued the spoken word, and historians believe it's likely they viewed verbal assurances by British settlers with the same value as signed the Māori version. Only 39 signed the English version. There was also a pretty big cultural difference. The British dealt in contracts and signed documents, but Māori didn't have a written language for much of their history. They valued the spoken word, and historians believe it's likely they viewed verbal assurances by British settlers with the same value as a signed contract. In fact, there were concerns even when the treaty was being written that ceding sovereignty was just a foreign concept to Māori, but the British pushed ahead anyway.
None of that was transferred from the original draft in English into the Māori.
They didn't even care. It's like, damn, why do they do what they do? Why can't certain humans just stay in a bubble, just thrive where you at, thrive where you live? Why? That's evil. That's evil.
Was transferred from the original draft in English into the Māori version for that very reason. So they went on a mission of effectively stealing all of our land, but they did it in very underhanded ways and various ways, and just set about dispossessing Māori, not only of our lands, but also of our power, our authority, and also of all of our resources. And that, of course, is just a repeat of colonization that they'd done everywhere else. But they were really brutal. The British subjects who came here just continued being totally lawless. The treaty was totally ignored.
These unequal interpretations set the stage for the New Zealand Wars, which left behind scars in the nation's fabric which still persist today.
I ain't gonna go back. Like Queenstown. But yeah, so the British just rinse and repeat pretty much. They've been through this before. This ain't nothing new. And then when they go over there, it's not like it's no police to make them not be lawless. While they over there and they doing what they doing to the Māori, they cannot just not be lawless, because who's gonna take them to jail? Nobody. They can do what they want.
Influx of European settlers in the mid-19th century heightened competition for land, fueling tensions which weren't helped by the disparities. The influx of European settlers in the mid-19th century heightened competition for land, fueling tensions which weren't helped by the disparities in understanding and interpreting the Treaty of Waitangi. But it wasn't only the treaty. Māori had different concepts of land ownership, governance and authority compared with British settlers, leading to conflicts over traditional Māori land and power structures. The government at the time, aiming to establish British control and expand European settlement, brought in policies which often disregarded Māori land rights. The New Zealand Settlements Act of 1863, for example, referred to the intention to introduce new settlers onto the lands, but it disguised its real purpose: confiscation of land from Māori tribes deemed to be in rebellion against Her Majesty's authority. The war manifested in 4 key ways across New Zealand's North Island. In Taranaki, Māori clashed with British forces and many Māori were forced to relocate. Land disputes gave rise to British military campaigns in the Waikato region, which had a significant and long-lasting effect on both Māori and British communities there. Even Waikato's only city is named for Captain John Fane Hamilton, commander of a naval squadron which fought in the conflict. On the other coast, the government aimed to establish authority and suppress perceived resistance. But it would be in the non-violent Māori settlement of Parihaka in 1881 where one of the most shameful acts in New Zealand's history would play out.
Those who stood there when they arrived were women and children. The women were raped.
And it's crazy because he said most of this has started around like the mid-19th century, so this stuff really just happened for real. I wonder what these places would have been like to go to, and it was just the people who was genuinely born there living in their chosen ways without being colonized. That would be interesting to see.
Were women and children.
The world was different. Like just 400 years ago, the world was different. A lot of this stuff happened recently for real.
The women were raped. The children were killed. You know, words escape me for the atrocities. It included every...
Bro, they look kind of black, bro. Like these look like some black children. They're not all the way like black, but they look closer to black people than anybody. Let me not say anybody, but they can come off as black though, to me.
Words escape me for the atrocities. It included every atrocity you can possibly think of. And there are reports from the soldiers who were there of the absolutely demonic behavior of those people who were so...
I could believe it. They just came through just slicing, dashing, and gashing anything. And it was just any and everything, man. Evil, bro. I believe it. I could see that happening for sure.
Desperately wanting the land that Māori said they could not have. Those colonizers deliberately wiped their records of what had happened and deliberately developed an amnesia about it, which meant that the following generations had no idea.
In each of those instances of the New
Zealand amnesia,
she lost me.
Those colonizers deliberately wiped their records of what had happened and deliberately developed an amnesia about it, which meant that the following generations had no idea.
I get that. They just like they not telling the whole truth. They're not telling the whole truth. I understand that.
In each of those instances of the New Zealand Wars, Māori were dispossessed and displaced in their thousands, a major contributing factor to socio-economic challenges faced by many Māori today. In many cases, land which was confiscated from Māori in the late 1800s is now worth significantly more than it was, but in losing the land, many have been stripped of the chance for generational wealth. In the late 20th century, Māori began seeking justice for those and other historical grievances related to the Treaty of Waitangi. The government initiated a treaty settlement process, aiming to address past wrongs through negotiations and compensation. But the pace and adequacy of those settlements have been the subjects of ongoing debate. Auckland University academics Professor Margaret Mutu and Dr. Teopera McDowell interviewed more than 150 claimants and negotiators and found that the process has traumatised claimants, divided their communities, and returned on average less than 1% of their stolen lands.
There was no Māori consultation over the development of this process, and it was delivered to us as a unilaterally determined policy at the end of 1994. The government then said, we're going to do it, and then moved very, very quickly to get a settlement with Tainui before Māori themselves could come up with an equivalent policy and say, no, this was it. And then the government was totally ruthless, but a lot of people were too scared. So they talked to me openly, but they were too scared to have it published because of what the Treaty Office of Treaty Settlements may do to them. It will take generations to heal that damage.
But the settlement process has also been criticised politically. In 2002, New Zealand First Leader and now Deputy Prime Minister Winston Peters suggested too many claims were being allowed through. And in 2006, the ACT Party took the view that no amount of money can undo past wrongs. And now these two parties are in government together with National, and ACT wants a referendum on the treaty.
The fact that we understand the treaty today through a lens back to 1840 we call the principles, and yet that lens, those principles, have never been properly defined in accordance with democratic processes, been defined by the courts, been defined by the Waitangi Tribunal, the public service has had a go, but it's never been done democratically on behalf of the people in the House of Representatives.
That's David Seymour, the leader of the ACT Party and the man who will become Deputy Prime Minister of New Zealand in 2025. He wants to propose the Treaty Principles Bill, which would introduce new principles based on the treaty. It was an unpopular proposal with many Māori, and then, on the eve of the Māori King's national hui, a bombshell document leaked to One News revealed major flaws.
It means the government isn't just facing pressure from Māori anymore, it's facing pressure from its own ministry to explain how they can stand by this bill when experts have clearly said it is inconsistent with what the treaty says.
The legal document warns the government's proposed principles are at odds with both the spirit and the text of the treaty. So what exactly are those principles? The New Zealand government has the right to govern all New Zealanders, will honour all New Zealanders in the chieftainship of their land and all their property, and all New Zealanders are equal under the law with the same rights and duties. The leaked document raises issues with the lack of consultation with Māori, despite its substantial impact on their rights. But Seymour insists the bill isn't divisive.
Ultimately, if we say that the treaty principles debate is divisive, what we're really saying is we can't do anything where people disagree in this country, and that's one of the biggest problems is we've lost the ability to disagree agreeably. If we just say, oh, it's divisive and don't talk about it, then we're not going to make progress in those important areas.
National, ACT and New Zealand First negotiated a coalition government deal in November 2023. And
bro, this man just start wearing some headpieces or something, but so is the mall like, so whenever they say all New Zealand is equal, right? Pardon me, but so is that a good thing? And when I say that, I'm saying like, so say for instance, right, is it that the government and the European side and everything, they want everything to be equal, so there's no division? Or is the Māori looking for the division because it's like, this is our land and we can't be equal because we was here first? Or is it flipped the other way around where the Māori feel like they not even in the equal position, so they want it to be equal, and the Europeans have for a while not been having it be equal?
return of Parliament on the 5th of December coincided with a day of national Māori protest organised by the left-wing Te Pāti Māori.
Yeah, lamest times, man.
Among the criticisms of a treaty principles bill is the suggestion that a referendum isn't the healthiest forum for what ACT calls a debate worth having.
Now, if you're going to hold a referendum, you should hold a referendum on something in which the people are fully informed, so that when you do make a decision as to which way you want to go, you have all of the facts, you understand them. Now, for that to happen, not only does the information need to be available for everybody, there needs to be a very long and careful conversation about what it actually means. That has been avoided, studiously avoided in this country for a long time. And as much as Māori try to ask for the conversation, we demand the conversation, it hasn't been allowed to happen.
Parliament said there are principles.
But these politics is interesting. Like, it's really people like going to bat, like really fighting for one side and fighting for one side, and it's always gonna be a battle regardless, man. This is just crazy. This is never ending.
The courts, the tribunal, the public service have made their own conclusions about what those principles are. I'm saying I think Parliament should have a say because the conclusions they've come to are incompatible with a free and democratic society.
Opinions on a referendum or even a bill are wide-ranging, and critics argue the Treaty of Waitangi is a foundational document that requires ongoing dialogue, consultation and negotiation rather than a one-time vote. But the call for a referendum isn't to be ignored, and the ensuing debate could have prologue, consultation and negotiation rather than a one-time vote. But the call for a referendum isn't to be ignored, and the ensuing debate could have profound effects on the future of New Zealand, and the ensuing debate could have profound effects on the future of New Zealand.
What did her sign say?
And the
never ceded sovereignty.
ensuing debate could have profound effects on the future of New Zealand and the closest thing the country has.
I will not speak Māori. I don't get that. Like, what is she saying? So she's against it?
Effects on the future of New Zealand and the
so people, I will not speak. I don't. So what team is she on? Like, is this the crowd? This the Māori crowd, right? Her sign says, "I will not speak Māori." It's hurting my head now. It's hurting my head. So you see how we got y'all got the Māori protests out here too. Do y'all have protests of people who is not like rocking with y'all? Like, just how her sign says, "I will not speak Māori." Like, do you have people walk around with signs like "F the Māoris" and stuff like that? People are probably not that brave now I think about it to do something like that. But this sign right here, I'm not getting her like statement.
Closest thing the country has to a constitution.
She gotta be rocking with him. Man, it's interesting though. I learned a little bit more than I did, and then I showed a little bit of my ignorance with this towards the end. But we out of here though. This is interesting. Anytime little dope videos like this pop up, we gonna check them out. And I see they dropped this video because February 6th is coming up, so that's probably why they dropped this video. We out of here, man. Let's get it. Let's go, dog. Don't eat me up in these comments neither, man, for things I didn't know, don't know. And yeah, we going. Let's get it. Come on.